Dokkan has been up and running for more than a decade now, so as you would guess, a game that's been up for that long for sure came with a couple of bugs and mistakes along the way.
What? Nani?
I don't know if I would use. Dude, that is crazy. Oh my god.
Wait a second, what the heck? Why is my health so high? Wait, what is happening right now? Did I not read? What the f—
So in today's video we'll go over some of Dokkan's biggest mistakes, ranging from them almost releasing underpowered units, like they don't even play their own game.
Brutal. Tell me how I'm supposed to get his stack in. We're gonna be on turn 10 with 0 stacks. That's great. Tremendous.
Two massive mistakes that could have genuinely ended the game.
Today, JP Dokkan got 300 free stones. The JP version, was a flaming dumpster fire yesterday.
Let's start with LR Vegito Blue, a unit that has been buffed 2 times during the history of the game. The first time was before he was about to release. He had the over in a flash key link, but due to players' complaints, they changed it to Prepared for Battle. And if you're wondering why Prepared for Battle was the better key link, it's because the Potara team had barely any over in a flash units. Prepared for Battle was a way more common link there. So Tech Vegito Blue was used in the Realm of Gods team, and LR Strength Vegito Blue in the Potara team. The second time this guy got buffed before release was when they first announced his Easier. Bro, that Easier was just so trash. His original Easier passive gave him just way too much key, while only giving him an additional 30% chance of flushing an additional super attack, and they barely increased his stats, so it was almost impossible to hit his 12 key and stack with him, which was what you wanted to do with that Vegito Blue, stack defense. I still remember people speculating that it was generally just better to not fully Easier him, just take the first 2 steps of his Easier for the super attack level, and not get his upgraded passive, which would stop you from hitting his 12 key super. That was just crazy. Thankfully, thanks to the players' outrage, they buffed him before release, giving him more stats in his passive and bumping his super attack chance from 30% to 50%. Like, sure, he still wasn't as good as people hoped for, since we all expected him to stack defense on his 18 key super, but yeah, he was now way better than what they initially showed us. But this was not the first time a unit had been buffed before release. The same thing happened with Physical First Entry Gotenks. His 12 key super was initially supposed to sacrifice 7% HP on super, and his buffs were not as good at the start of turn. Obviously people were mad, like he was already a glass cannon and arguably worse than his tech counterpart, a unit that came a year before him. So yeah, they listened to the players and buffed him before release, turning him into one of the strongest Neo Gods leaders of that year. If you didn't know, there used to be like a hidden key multiplier bug that was present since the beginning of the game, which, if I'm not mistaken, just made units who were overflowing with key hit harder, because the additional key in their passive was somehow added to their 12 key multiplier. They never bothered to fix it, since very few units at the time could even make use of it. Well, that was before the release of LR Caulifly and Kel, since they had a passive giving them key with each attack performed, and they could attack multiple times within the same turn, causing them to launch multiple additional super attacks that had more than 12 key. They legit broke the game, so obviously the devs had to do something about it, and that's where we got an even bigger mistake from their part: the update 4.3.0. In a failed attempt to fix that key overflow bug, the update literally broke the game. LR started launching additional 18 key super attacks. You could take damage while in a giant ape state. Characters' attack stats were showing incorrectly, and you could even have a 0 HP health bar. Like, bro, it was just crazy. But this is not the only update that broke the game. The update 4.14.3 on global literally stopped you from using super type items. Like, your game would crash if you use a super type item. If I'm not mistaken, it took them almost 2 months to fix the problem. There was legit a notice in game asking players not to use super type items or their game would crash. I have no idea how they got away with that. All I remember is that Dokkan was so dry at the time that I barely played the game while the issue was there, which meant that it would have been the perfect time to try and no items from old Super Battle stages. But yeah, you couldn't even do that because they closed so many events because of that bug, including Super Battle Road. This has to be one of Global's biggest L's. Not being able to use super type items for almost 2 months is just insane. Absolute craziness.
Hey, excuse me, sir. Yeah, me. Sorry to bug you. Hate to stop your money counting and all that. I was just wondering, when are we not pushing out this global Dokkan Battle fix, or what's going on with that?
Can they still buy Dragon Stones and summon?
Well, yeah, I mean, the shop and summon features work fine like normal, but support items are completely gone, and the players have been missing out on a bunch of events for like a week straight, and we haven't done anything yet. I was just...
Hey, can they still buy Dragon Stones and summon?
Yes, they can still buy Dragon Stones and summon.
Okay then.
But the biggest L might have been the compensation that they gave us. They gave us like 10 stones in total. That's just crazy. Now, that bug just like stole the joy out of the players, you know? So let's move on to a mistake that actually made the game more fun for once. The airplane saga. I think this was the most fun I've ever had in Dokkan. Back in 2021, a Reddit user by the name of Broman Dude made a post showcasing a new bug he found. A bug that would exponentially multiply all of your character's stats and hidden potential abilities, like crit dodge and additionals. And the crazy part about that bug was that it was actually extremely easy to replicate. All you had to do was restart your game while in battle, and then when reconnecting, enable and disable the airplane mode on your phone. Hence why the bug was called the airplane bug. Then boom, once in game, all of your characters were now absolute monsters. As you would guess, that bug took the community by storm, and everyone started using it. I actually used it myself to beat the first 3 stages of the Hercule Nuken event. Like, I'm sorry bro, but that event was just pure BS. I genuinely have no regrets doing that. I still like try it from time to time, and even with the 9th year anniversary power creep, that event is just literally impossible. It requires just too much RNG. Like, bear in mind that this is an event that came during the 4th year anniversary. Take for example the Corded Body and Mind Legendary Goku event mission. Another mission that was complete BS at the time, and that people gladly used the airplane bug to beat. Well, that mission now is like a complete joke, as it should be. But that Nuken event, still BS. Even though it came like 3 years before that mission. But yeah, people didn't use that bug to beat some missions. They also used it to do some crazy stuff like killing V-Pen, or just juicing up some meme characters to oblivion. But all of that came at a cost. Shortly after the discovery of the airplane bug, the devs put a notice in the news saying that anyone who used that bug would have their account permanently banned. This made players very mad. The Dokkan subreddit was literally flooded with cope following that announcement. The community went through the 5 stages of grief in the span of like 3 days. It was just so crazy. Even big Dokkan YouTubers like Nano used the bug on video, and he did it on his main account. But from what I could remember, he didn't actually finish the event, so he assumed like he would be safe, but even he wasn't immune. Like I said, the whole community went through the 5 stages of grief, and the last stage was acceptance. So Nano and many others, including me, had already accepted their fate.
Said I was doing the video for literal educational purposes and the hopes of signal boosting it and getting Bandai to notice it and fix it, please. And so there it is. But if my global goes down for it, it is what it is. A lot of y'all have tagged me. Is your global gonna get banned, Nano? You're bye-bye your global. It is what it is if it happens. You know what I mean? Stay tuned, I guess. Maybe you'll see a video coming out where I'm like, I got banned. Who knows?
Thankfully, in the end, they actually didn't ban anyone, or at least not anyone who actually used the airplane bug. I'm not sure if this is true, but apparently there were much worse bugs in the game at the time, like a bug that allowed you to duplicate stones. I've personally never seen it in action, so it was probably just fake news or people trying to spread like rumors, but if it were true, I guess it was well kept, and those players were the players that probably got banned at the time. Now, this is not the only time in Dokkan history where the devs threatened to ban players for one of their mistakes. This is quite a recent one, so I'm sure most of you guys remember the glitched Kaioken Goku in the first global burst mode. There was like a friend LR Kaioken Goku and his stats were glitched. Like, he had a 100k based attack stat, meaning he could pretty much one-shot anything in the game, including achieving the highest burst mode score quite easily. As you would guess, as soon as the devs were made aware of that bug, they put a notice in the news saying that all players who used the glitched LR Goku friend were going to have their accounts suspended, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's not like the airplane bug where you had to do a specific like set of things to trigger the bug. You literally just picked a unit that was already available in game. This could have easily been done by mistake. How could the players have guessed that the unit was glitched? It's not like you check every friend character's stats before using them. I legit just picked the friend unit with the highest potential system. Bro, like, I don't analyze them. So yeah, players were furious. But since they didn't ban players for using the airplane bug, most people kept their cool. And yeah, in the end, they didn't ban anyone. Now with that being said, let's cool down with some minor mistakes. Did you know that the card art of the TOR of the Worldwide Namek Saga LR% Goku was actually different between both versions? The one on Global is the one we currently have, where all the shading of the card is blue. But on JP, they had a different version where Goku had his regular colors. I don't even know how they even managed to do that, but let me know which one you prefer in the comments down below. I personally prefer the one we had on Global. The blue shading just hits different. Did you know that the original card icon of the TOR of the LR Goku in Arale had Krillin in the background? Which didn't make much sense since the icon of the character is, as far as I know, supposed to match the name of the character, and the card wasn't called Goku and Krillin. It was just a Goku card with Krillin in the background. So this was obviously changed before release to avoid confusion. Another simple one, did you know that when Tech Golden Frieza first came out on JP, he had the wrong coloring? Look at his arms and legs. They're supposed to be purple, but instead, they were gold. Honestly, I'm not surprised. I would have probably made a similar mistake at the time if I didn't pay attention. Still on JP, on Strength Rose's initial banner, the image of the banner showed the TOR of Super Saiyan 3 Broly instead of his SSR, which as you would imagine was very misleading. So they refounded all players who summoned on the banner while Broly was displayed incorrectly, and also gave an additional 5 stones to all players as an extra compensation. But the crazy thing here is that not only was the banner bugged on Global 2, this was literally a month after the whole Kefla situation on JP. They made 2 major mistakes in the span of 2 months, and some severe ones. Like, what happened with the Kefla banner could have genuinely killed Dokkan. But yeah, before we move on to that, Rose's banner was also bugged on Global. On the featured unit Stab, the sprite of Text% Blue Goku was showing instead of SR AGL Shenron. I think that's just as bad of an error as the one that happened on JP. But you know what they did on Global? Absolutely nothing. They just fixed it and gave every player 1 Dragon Stone. Now I'm starting to remember why Global players whined so much about the 300 stones situation. Like they messed up so many times on Global, but never gave any type of compensation. Bro, they could have at least refounded the players. I'm sure there's at least one guy who summoned on the banner thinking Super Saiyan Blue Goku was a featured unit. It's crazy to me how much they just didn't care. Actually, talking about Global shafts, I'm sure you've heard of it, but when Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and Omega Shenron first released on Global, during the first ever shared celebration across both versions, they didn't have any leader skills. This was because the update that introduced the category mechanic into the game wasn't out yet on Global. I guess their Global team was small or something, but yeah, they just released the characters with to-be-released leader skills, which was absolutely crazy, especially since Gogeta and Omega had sub-leader skills, so they could have at least just released them with their sub-leader skills, but I guess that would have been too complicated to do. This just whole thing was a mess. The update released 2 months later on Global, so for almost 3 months, some of the most anticipated and hyped cards in the whole history of the game just had low leader skills. Truly one of Global's biggest shaft. And just to show you how much they actually didn't care about Global, look at this. This was AGL's % Blue Kaioken's banner on Global, which featured Strength's % 3 Vegeta instead of AGL's per Vegito. That was already a huge shaft in itself, but then you look closer, and bro, they literally just copy pasted Strength's % 3 Vegeta over AGL's per Vegito. They really didn't care at all, at all, bro. But I guess they just didn't care much about those types of mistakes back then, because on physical Full Power Frieza's initial banner, the banner showed the TORs of Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Physical Kid Buu instead of their SSRs. This wasn't fixed on either Global or JP, and they didn't give out any compensation either, because when it happened almost 2 years later on Rose's initial banner, they refounded every player who summoned on the banner. Now, as for the whole Kefla situation, long story short, they messed up something with the servers, and people were saying different characters in the SSR pool. This obviously caused a huge controversy, where people thought Bandai was rigging the rates, that each person had different rates and characters on every banner, and that the update had just revealed what they were truly doing all along. As far as we know, this wasn't the case. This was purely a visual bug, but you can guess it looked bad, really bad. So they had to do something about it. So that's when they made the choice to refund every player the stones they used on the banner, as well as giving every single player 300 stones, even those who didn't summon on the banner, which was, as you would guess, just insane. 300 stones, that was something at the time. But that also sparked another controversy. People thought that it was just too fishy for Bandai to be be that generous, you know? Let's not forget that the producer at the time was Toshi, so a lot of people just saw it as hush money, and probably still think to this day that Dokkan was rigging rates and scamming players. But honestly, who knows? As for the last mistake of the video, I'm going to show you something a little bit more obscure. A bug that most people probably didn't even know existed. In the early days of the game, there was a bug where if you switched friends while the game was loading, it was possible to have characters switch super attack animations. For example, you could have Yamcha perform the Soul Punisher. I really wonder how this bug would have looked today, unlike modern characters. Like, Dokkan animations have come a long way, so I can only imagine that this would have looked like interesting, to say the least. Anyways, this is the end of the video. I obviously didn't cover all of the bugs and mistakes that Dokkan had through the years. There's unfortunately just too many of them, so feel free to drop the ones that I missed and that you think are worth going over, so I'll maybe drop like a part 2 at some point. But until then, take care, peace.